Well, good afternoon and good. Thanks for reading our trades newsletter. Just a short video there as our starts. We're going to be doing a bit more of the news reporting and a couple more videos on here as we go along. We're going to be showing obviously the screens and everything else around there. And we're going to be talking obviously today about, the most important thing about the trade newsletter that we've seen. It's out, and the key things that we see from that today. So what are the key things we are seeing from the trade newsletter? What the challenges there. This is always a challenge with anything when you have Zoom. Everything is so complex at times. Once you get used to it, it's quite straightforward, but it kind of just creates its own challenge in itself. And sometimes it causes you a problem just trying to get the screens on and everything else and trying to do everything you should be doing. But trade newsletter here today. What the key things we're seeing in the marketplace. The big picture, rising enforcement, carbon costs. So again, think of your CBAM, carbon border adjustment mechanism. That's come into place now. So the three topics today: customs authorities, worldwide increasing scrutiny. We know that, and it seems to be more than ever now. It's not here to frighten you. It's here just to make sure you're aware of your obligations. I see lots of news on LinkedIn and other things. There's been a fine, 50,000. You're not going to get fined if you're doing everything correct. An audit is like any other audit. It's to check to make sure you're doing everything you should be doing. And that's the whole point of the trade newsletter. It's to help you and support you and give you a better understanding of what your requirements are. Obviously, we have the carbon border adjustment now coming into full play, and I've got a little bit of a talk on that, which we'll cover. And supply consolidation. Are we starting to see supply chain change? I think we've seen that, and I think we're certainly seeing that in the next, I would say, over the next year, we're going to see that really start to change, where you'll have multiple suppliers. You're going to condense that now. You're looking at your supply chain close to home. You're looking at what Europe. For the UK, China will always be a big player, but now we've got big players like India. The UK introduced, remember, the Development Country Trading Scheme last year. They've introduced more into that now with Sri Lanka and other areas where the origin, plays an important role, but it reduces that duty. So you can be buying from many different suppliers. That can really reduce your cost. If you've really got tight margins on your cost, these are the things to really consider. Look, yes, you want to be loyal and you want to keep with the same supplier, but there are other suppliers out there. Again, do your checks, do your robust checks. We do lots of courses on these kind of areas, and it really will help you in your journey. Our trade intelligence, I've been working on it all weekend. AI is the bane of my life. It seems to have taken over my life as my two lads are staying with me from university. They go back, hopefully, because I can't wait, in another week or so. And they said, Dad, you're just looking at that screen all day. I do get out, but it's challenging when you're building up a platform, which we've been building in the background. But what's the intelligence telling us? It's telling us, like I said, the globalizer are narrowing their approved supplier. So we're seeing a lot more challenges there. We're seeing a lot more scrutiny. So larger companies now, if you're supplying larger companies around the world as an exporter, or you're importing goods and you're supplying companies in the UK, there's a lot more scrutiny now on who your supplier and who's handling your supply chain. So that's one thing we're seeing. The second one is the export profitability. We're seeing profitability eroded, obviously, with customs charges, with the US, with obviously more taxes. But again, a lot of these fail when it comes to customs charges. Is your freight forwarder giving you the right pricing? Are you getting the correct pricing? Don't just assume getting 3-4 prices is the best thing. You might pay a little bit more, but you might save a lot of money because you don't have all the issues around customs, redeliveries, customs charges where it's been delayed for 2 days. You got demurrage and all these things. So a good freight forwarder should avoid all that. So that it's a very much a balance. So balance yourself and look at what you should be thinking about. Pressures, carbon border adjustment mechanism. They'll all be out banging the drums in the next month or so about carbon border adjustment mechanism. Is it another way of making money? Of course, it's another way of making money. Don't let anybody kid you. But unfortunately, the rules are the rules, and we have to adhere to them, and we have to accept them, and we have to work with them. So just things to think about. The EU will put a lot more pressure. We're seeing Starmer try to align us more with the EU. And and whether we agree with that or disagree with it, that's what he's trying to do. He should be speaking, more open about this. But again, we don't work with governments now who are very transparent, unfortunately. They only tell you what they want to tell you, unfortunately. So we have to kind of read between the lines and try and give you the best advice we can, because we can't control what happens at that high level discussions. But there's certainly a thing there. And I think, if there's some pluses out of that, it would take us away from this real pressure of the carbon border adjustment mechanism on your emissions. So, whoever thought in the day when I was trading in the 80s and 90s and 2000 that we'll be talking about emissions data, but it's there, and it's there. We have to think about it. The origin, very important origin proof. It's so critical. Like I said, I've got a couple of slides on that, a couple of presentations, which I'll throw into YouTube. It's getting used to YouTube. It's just, it's like everything else when you start these new projects. I'm like you, I'm new to it. You notice I don't, make the slides perfect. I've been doing this a long time. What you get is off the cuff. It's off the cuff discussions. So, and I'll be very transparent and open. People might not agree with it, but obviously I'm here to try and support and give you a better background on where your supply chain and things to really think about. Transparency is talked a lot about. It's the new buzzword, isn't it? Transparency. What's your transparency? And the geopolitical stage is really hotting up. And I really feel for exporters, importers who are trying to make a mark in the market. You're trying to do everything correct, and you're just bombarded with different challenges all the time, constant. Again, it's keeping hold of that. So just think about your transparency. In my humble opinion, I would say opinion, when I do audits and when I go in and do the diagnostics, and we either do it online or we go into a customer or a client, and we've done many of these, fundamentally, there's always something, unfortunately, they're not doing quite correct and it's costing them. But the bottom line is they're making money, but actually they could make more money. And transparency is very similar that you need to understand that, do you do your suppliers declarations? Do you have your X numbers? And it's like, what are them? Because companies don't really think about them key things, but it's coming more into play now. People need to actually understand. And Trump, the US administration, really made this clear. Where are you buying your products from? Where's the transparency? So again, it's something to think about. Again, we can't change what happens. All we can do is advise and hopefully give you some, but hopefully expertise and around the things to think about. But again, UK trade reality, document checks, valuation, origin. They're the three key things that I see every day. And that's not changed since the last 5 years. It stays the same. We used to talk about this when we was delivering for the Institute of Exports. These are the key things to think about. And we was right. We were spot on at that time when we was doing that training on Brexit. I spent my life doing Brexit training all around the UK and in Ireland. And, nothing's changed. The only thing is that we try and do things differently. The process is exactly the same. Get your processes right. Get everything in place. Your documents, your evaluations, your origin, all your documents in place, and this starts to make it a little bit easier. But I understand it's not everybody's cup of tea, and it's not something that people get excited by. So they tend to move on as quick as they can with anything like this when they're trying to look at trade, because ultimately you just want to trade, don't you? I just got some market data out there from our data center just to see, and I was trying to have a look to see what's the latest news. And 1.7 billion export decline, value reduction in UK goods. You remember on Friday we talked about goods and services, so we're seeing services climbing, we're seeing goods really, but that's around the world. So don't always get too wrapped up with this. It's volatile. There's a drop. But there's other areas, Europe has not closed for business. It's very much open for business, but there's a lot of uncertainty within there. So it's volatile, volatile market. So again, have a look. Are there other areas that you can concentrate on? Don't be frightened of thinking of the US. Don't be frightened of thinking of India, China, and all these kind of markets, And again, hopefully once the builders, the export intelligence hub and the builders ready, it'd be quite exciting. You'll be able to get a lot of information from there. Why compliance? Compliance is now part of your commercial package. Think about commercially. Get your sales guys trained up. Your sales guys, good sales guys who can sell internationally, get them trained up. I can sell internationally because I'm trained up. I'm a sales guy. But if you've got that knowledge, there's so much they can do with that. Your sales guys want to earn money. They want to enhance business. give them the tools to do that. Yes, they always, I don't want to go training, I don't want to do this. But actually, you tend to find the sales guys who go training really get a huge value out of it because they're normally on the front end. They're normally on the front line when they're negotiating this. And normally on the export department or shipping department, so like we said, this jigsaw, they're normally the people that are kind of, it's already happened. But the sales guys or the sales directors are normally the one who are getting all the challenges, what Incoterm should I use? What am I selling it at? What's my landing cost? What documents do I need? Is there anything in particular? By doing courses, it really puts them ahead. And trust me, you'd actually be more investment spent actually having the sales guys coming on the training. I always say this, than actually having a good operator who kind of understands what he's doing. But it creates lots of problems for him because the sales or the developing commercial team don't always do what they should be doing. That creates a huge problem then for the department. But actually, if you train them up and they get that right, it makes it a lot easier. Then the department do what they're supposed to be doing. So again, it's quite interesting to see the challenges within there. Supply chain analytics, we're seeing significant shifts underway in trade education, universities, colleges. We've seen this within when we do our university and our college talks on here. So we always have an entrepreneur, and as you've seen, students. This is more for students, but we're seeing that supply chain analytics, sustainability, international business, and trade compliance. The transformation, next generation of trade professionals get trained. If you're young and you want to get into this area, get trained in international trade. This is the future. You understand what you're doing, you will fly. Whether you're doing services or you're doing products, having that understanding, don't be frightened. Everybody can learn. Look, a 58-year-old guy's learned how to do AI. He's learned how to do programming. He's learned how to talk to a computer in coding terms. Was that easy? No, it's been hard. But I've learned it. So if I can learn it, and obviously I teach in international trade, but if I can absorb so much information in technology, if I can do it, you can learn a lot of things. So don't ever be put off. So don't all this nonsense when they say, well, I'm too old to learn or I'm too young to understand. Everybody absorb the information. It'll really do you good in the future. New book, so we've got The World for Sale. So it's Javier Blas and Jack Farsha have done this. It explains commodity sanction, geopolitical power control. So it's quite interesting, actually. They also feel that the real trade risk isn't just customs borders, logistics, the deepest understanding who controls the supply chain. That's really important. Trade is not a neutral, frictionless process. It's shaped by power relationships and strategic positioning. I'll put my teeth back in. The companies that understand this, that see beyond price lists and shipping schedules to the underlying control of supply, gain a competitive advantage. So it's quite an interesting book, actually. And we're going to get some snippets out of it for people to read. No, it's not everybody's cup of tea, the book club, but some people like it. And happy to show and show what it does. I think it's always nice when you see some alternative. What to do next? It's interesting. Your diagnostics, your training. The hub is nearly ready on a few of the live hubs. So we will have the export builder, which it really is an art. It really is incredible what it can do. I'm just in the testing stages all weekend of testing. And again, it's really interesting to see how things work. So I'm going to show you just quickly what we put together. I love the old Zoom and everything else. Once you kind of get used to using different areas and different things, it can really work to your advantage. Again, making sure you understand how things work. And again, I'll just show you this quickly. But we're really going to be going big time on the news program on YouTube.
Global supply chains are complex, markets are uncertain, and profit margins are under pressure. But opportunity still exists if you can clearly see the data and make informed decisions. This is the Export Unlocked Trade Intelligence Hub. One place to understand your supply chain, identify new opportunities, and make smarter trade decisions. Inside the hub, our Export Data Builder lets you enter your product's HS or commodity code, select the markets you want to explore, and instantly generate a market intelligence report. The same search works across more than 190 countries. If it works for the UK, it works for any market, because the intelligence is built on global trade classifications. Understand tariffs, supply chain routes, trade rules, and market opportunities, helping you reduce risk, improve decision-making, and grow profits. Everything you need inside one trade intelligence hub.
It really is when we start to see what it can do. I was testing it this weekend, and you imagine you can go into a system that is listed to, I think, 190 countries. I mean, huge amount of work going on in the background in this. I spent hours and hours building this, and it actually works. So you put in your commodity code, it'll give you your three markets. That's where, this is where the real advantage of having a trade specialist in a country, because you already know there's a market there, because it tells you, it'll tell you all your customs, everything. Think of Navigator Global, all these systems, what are out there, great tools, because obviously as a partner in Navigator Global, why I want to get involved with it? Because it gives you the tools then to speak to the specialists in that market, because you already know you're in that market. You already know that your commodity code, there are people buying it. It tells you these are the top three markets. So why waste your energy on number 1,000 when you know that there's not that many people are going to buy it, whereas you've got an opportunity, a window of opportunity. So again, use that and see how it works. It really will be a real benefit to you. Again, from the Trade Hub, just thinking about what you need to be thinking about on there. It's really important just to understand where you are, your diagnostics, trade intelligence. We're here. We're going to be doing a lot more of the smaller courses once we get everything together, because it's one of them things I've always learned that, yes, we could have this perfect. Yes, I could spend weeks and yeah, I'm a trainer. Yeah, I spend my life on Zoom. But I'm getting used to it. And once we get used to it, wow, this is going to be a fantastic tool for you, because you can read the newsletter or you can come straight on here, see what the news is for that day, see what things you have to worry about or the key things that we're talking about, so you can be prepared and move forward. And I think that's a valuable tool for anybody, because we don't see it. YouTube, you have somebody talking on YouTube. Have you ever seen that when you go on YouTube or whatever, and it's like, hi, my name is Think, and this, and you think, oh my God, I'm going to lose the will to live here. So hopefully this is quick, fast, that it gives you that information. Again, let us know what you think. It's always important. Thanks for joining us. We're trying to keep it 10 to 15 minutes. I know I waffle on, so I do apologise. But hopefully we'll see you tomorrow. And it'll be more updated and more exciting. So exciting times ahead, and really exciting times for you, because it's really going to put you ahead of the market so you can be ready as you expand or if you're importing as well. So thank you. Have a good day, everybody, and see you.